Hello, Attactioneers. Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Morrow. Full A deuce. Somebody else.
And I'm your podcast host, Blake Meyer. And rock bottom isn't as fun as I thought it would be.
And I'm Zayne Johnson, and I am fully junted.
Oh. Zayne sent me some cards in the mail, and he cleverly attached a Post-it note to it that said, Happy Junting. And it was just a nice, sweet touch. So thank you for that extra level there. Appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah.
So what's up, guys? Blake, tell me about your rock bottom. Is it because you've been working out so much that your buttocks is now rock hard?
Yeah, that's usually what I mean when I'm talking about stuff is how much I've been working out. No, it just feels like everything is, we're playing card games to avoid the world. And now my card games are Mr. Rice. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's more of, I think every day you wake up and you hope for a new tomorrow, and then the tomorrows are worse than the yesterdays. So the new tomorrow that you're hoping for is just spiraling out of control, and everyone tells you it's interesting. Like I have a friend in LA, and he's like, oh, by the way, guys, you guys want to hang out Monday? And we're like, Monday's kind of weird. Why? And it's like, I'm breaking up with my wife and I'm moving back to Wisconsin. And you're like, what? And hopefully none of those people listen to this, but it is a thing where you're like, well, is everyone's world getting worse? And then I've got to go play Zen on Tuesday, and then you're like, this is not as fun as I thought either. And I'm gonna go eat a chicken sandwich to try and recollect my thoughts, and that's kind of what rock bottom is. The other thought process too is like, is entertainment industry toast, and should I be more realistic about it and figure out something to do? So yeah, if you have any advice, go ahead and put it in a message and send it to me, because we're looking for anything right now of free handouts or what is it called? I could be your lesbian daughter's fake husband for the royal wedding or something. Like I've seen that in movies before. So let's just do whatever you guys have for me. Just send it over.
Got it. Noted. Your address is
185.
Zayne, how about you talk to us about being fully junted? You're junted up to your eyeballs.
I am. I have officially acquired all the Syndra cards. I have all of the Arachne cards, and I don't have the Fang cards, and that's okay, because Fang is not real. He can't hurt me. Yeah, I've returned from my 2 episodes off for no particular reason other than scheduling. But glad to be back, My wife finished her license exam for MFT, so she's a fully licensed therapist now, which is very exciting. That was a big thorn in our side, getting the hours and passing the test for a long time, and she worked really hard. So that's what I've been doing with most of my time, and now I'm finally excited to switch my attention to Fab and play some Marionette.
Hell yeah, we're going to get into that later. Congratulations to your wife. Great job. That's an incredible achievement always when people do stuff. So great.
When people do the things.
When people do the thing that they were trying to do and then they do it. We love that. There's
yes.
That's the best thing.
There was some doubt in there. We pushed through. We found a way. So yeah, very excited. And now we get to start planning London. I'll be going to London for Pro Tour, but then my wife's going to fly after me and meet me there on Monday morning after Pro Tour. And then we're just going to pretend that we're having a normal vacation.
That's a sick idea.
Yeah.
I have
and
to
spend all $50,000 in 2 days.
That's the plan. Bring my giant check on the tube.
That's awesome. I also have to get my tickets for London this weekend, so we'll be doing that as well. That's a chore I need to do. Shout out to all of the women in the world internationally. We are recording on International Women's Day, so happy International Women's Day.
None of them domestically. Only the international women.
Yeah, because of the way our country is going here in the United States, we for sure have not been celebrating
Just get right into it, you know?
our domestic women. So
That's how they like it here.
it's fucked up. So anyway, shout out to all the women. Appreciate you. Thank you. Hopefully you are celebrating in whatever way you wish to celebrate. Speaking of women, I watched the summer flop buster Joker Full A Deuce, and I freaking love
It came out in October.
Okay, whatever. Exactly. Critically, I don't even know what happened critically. Word of mouth was that movie was ass, and then I was like, well, fuck this. I'm just going to watch it. And you know what? That movie kicked ass. Have either of you seen this film?
Well, I'm going to watch it now because you're the only person I've ever heard talk positively about it.
I have not seen it,
Oh my god.
but now I'm excited for you to sell me on it.
Okay. I'm also going to spoil it, so if you really want to watch it,
No,
maybe
and please spoil it so I'd never have to watch it. Yeah.
I mean, is there Fight Club levels of reveals going on here?
definitely not.
Because I think you guys are both good at this stuff, but let me go ahead and put some context for everybody. The first Joker movie came out in 2019, and its budget was $55 million, and it made like over $1 billion. So they made a second one, and this budget for this one was $200 million, and it only made $207 million at the box office.
Worth it.
So
Plus
probably
7.
one of the worst follow-ups ever for a sequel.
Profitable. They made $7 million.
I would love to make $7 million right now. I would love that.
Well,
How
get
about
Lady Gaga on the podcast.
Yeah, totally. Gaga, we would love to have you on the pod. Okay. And for you to pay us $7 million to do it. We'll take 1 million and we'll split it 4 ways. We'll split it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll even give some to charity. Fuck it. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, the word on the street was that this film was really bad and that it's a musical. And only one of those things is true. It is a musical, and it's so fascinating because it's kind of not about Joaquin Phoenix's character Arthur. I feel like it's really about Lady Gaga's character Harley Quinzel in like a weird kind of way. Not in a weird kind of way, like in a very clear way. So like he's like in jail now for all of the murders he's had, and then like he meets Gaga, and it's basically like it's a love story here, and it goes through kind of like a really a movie's length worth of what happens sometimes when you date somebody, right? It's like it's so good. There's like literal fires burning at the beginning because it's so exciting, like she sets the whole like Arkham Asylum on fire, and they're like running in the rain, like singing together, and what kind of happens over the course of the movie is this relationship. Arthur finds out like, oh, I'm like, maybe I just am like not happy and somebody's interested in me, and that has like kind of changed my perspective on myself, and I'm like no longer want to be the Joker. Like I just don't want this responsibility. But society is like, which hits a little different in 2025, where you're like, there's a symbol in the courtroom of like anti the system, you know what I mean? Which feels very apt right now in North America. And society's like, yeah, the fucking Joker is fucking sweet. Let's burn it all down, etc. You know, and you're like, I can relate to that energy. Anyway, and then Arthur's like, okay, well now like I got this girl, like I don't feel like the Joker. I'm gonna be fine, you know, like I just want to be with her. And so then what kind of happens at the end of the movie is she kind of goes like, no, I have agreed, like our thing is that we're going to be fucking crazy and we're going to build a mountain out of like a molehill or whatever her saying is. Like we're going to burn this thing down. We're going to be the Joker and his lady, and that's what I signed up for. And he's like, nah, I don't want that. And she's like, dude, peace then. Like you can't meet me where I'm at. Like I'm out, dog. And you're like, dang, that's kind of sick. Like what a cool thing to say, like about relationships, right? Is like, you've done all of these things, showing this person like all of these ways in which you're like committed to this like idea of the two of you. And then that person is like, actually, I can't be there. Do you still want to be together? And then she gets to go like, no, dude, like if you can't meet me in the middle here, then I'm out. And I'm like, man, that's like actually kind of emotionally really healthy of someone in a movie about being mentally and emotionally like super unhealthy. And then the big reveal kind of at the end is that then somebody just fucking kills Arthur, another inmate, who then in like this 4-second clip, like he tells him a joke and then fucking stabs him to death. And then like also is laughing uncontrollably and like cuts his face to be like, you know, seemingly saying like, I'm actually going to be the next Joker. And then that kind of like spiraled my whole brain into, whoa, is the Joker is like kind of like what Batman says in one of those films, like, I'm just a symbol of what the city needs, you know? And now the Joker is kind of that also. It's like not even the guy we like started this movie with. He's just a guy named Arthur who changed the fucking world. And now some other person is the Joker. And that's crazy that then it's like, you know, just started off of like an idea like that, you know what I mean? And then when you go one more layer deeper, you're like, okay, well then the lore is then Harley like then dates the Joker. So then she like helped start the whole thing in its second chapter, and then later is like, oh, there's my boyfriend. I want the Joker. There they are. You know what I mean? Like I want this type of relationship. I've found that person, and we're gonna fucking run this city. So go see Joker Full A Deuce. That's why you should see it, is because those are the themes and they're fucking rad. I think I killed Blake somehow. See, now Blake's upset because he's gonna have to see this movie because of how I've talked about it. I know it.
He's emotional.
Damn, that sounds really good.
It is really good. And I'm not even gonna lie, the musical numbers and the dancing and the costumes and the changes and that kind of idea of their, you know, mental state, you know, whose ever perspective that is on what's actually happening is fascinating. And I think a really cool way to tell that story. They took I don't even think it is a chance. It just feels like a progression in that storytelling, you know, and maybe because people expected it to be one way, felt negative about it. I thought it was great. So get at me in the comments.
No, literally what you said is people were excited for a sequel. The sequel said everything you expected we're not going to do. We're going to focus about other things. The first one wasn't a musical. We're going to make it a musical. You also said we don't care about his character at all. We focus on a new character. I don't know what sequel you've ever wanted of, hey, tell me the story of a new character instead of the character we all kind of, we didn't fall in love with them, but it was very interesting from the first one. Oh, they're not the main person? Great.
I don't think you are rooting for or like Arthur in the first film at all. You just like that
Right. You feel bad for him.
yeah, and you feel bad for him in this for sure. He's a tragic character, but you also like the fact that he's inspired people, in this particular way, and he does the same thing in this film as well. You're the hero long enough to see yourself be the villain. All of the Batman themes are fucking in this, bro. It's crazy. He is Batman. They are the same.
So the Joker's kind of like an idea.
Yeah. He's a symbol.
So what if 007 was actually 15 people and James Bond is just more of like a moniker?
No,
and their actual names weren't James or Bond.
It's more like if Arachne was also then 6 other spider monster people. It's kind of like that, It's more of an idea.
Let's do an origin story of the Joker. Actually, it's the guy that stabbed him at the end. Brother, what?
Dude, just watch it. It hits.
No, they deserve to lose all $800 million for that. Yeah, that makes sense. No, it sounds really good. I'm gonna go look at all my streaming services and see which ones it's on right after this. Yeah. What about anything else? Anything else we could possibly talk about? Sheesh. Lady Gaga just had an album come out on Thursday. Have you been listening to that?
I have
or you
not.
only like her as an actress?
I've been catching up on my Doechii content, so that has been excellent.
Did you see her fashion choice yesterday?
I did not.
She walked into a event with a dress that she did not have any underwear, and it was showing everything.
Good for her.
Yep.
Happy International Women's Day.
Oh my gosh. Zayne, what's your contribution to International Women's Day this year?
It's International Women's Day. I bought my wife flowers for passing her test.
Hell yeah.
Which I have like a weird relationship with buying flowers because I hate that I feel obligated to do it. Which I'm sure many people go through that. And it's really not that big a deal.
Your love is an obligation.
I like buying flowers.
I don't like when it's expected. I don't like doing it out of obligation. Whatever. But this time that was not the case. I was genuinely very excited. So I understood the origin, why we started doing this in the first place.
Okay, on a totally separate note, before we get into Flesh and Blood, just to help us pivot through here. On Friday, Nikola Jokic, the greatest player to ever play basketball, had a insane triple-double of like 31 points, 20 rebounds, and 21 assists. Insane. First one ever in the history of the NBA. So we're just living in an extremely unique time, is what I'm saying.
Unprecedented times again.
Unprecedented times again for the 100th time in my millennial life. It's great. Okay. Let's talk about Flesh and Blood. What's going on in Flesh and Blood? We just got done with Road to National season, which was 5 weeks long, right?
Or I would have said 4. Pretty sure 4, but
yeah, well, maybe it felt like 5 for everybody. 1, 2, 3. Did it start the 31st of February?
They put out the article this week of Metagame Minute, Road to Nationals Week 4.
Okay, 4 weeks. Never mind then. Okay. 4 weeks long. It happened. Both of you participated in some Road to Nationals. How was it this season? It seemed like it was a up and down, meta shifting, trying to find the target, etc. Or the goalposts seemed like they were moving. How does that feel for both of y'all? How about Zayne? You talk to me about this experience.
Sure. I enjoyed this RTN season in general. Like I thought the meta was pretty interesting, it crystallized a bit, once Viserai left, and it became maybe a little bit more predictable, with a lot of aggro, and then basically new trying to combat the aggro. Because when Viserai was around, you had 4 decks basically in tier 1 or 0 that were aggro with Syndra, Zen, Aurora, and Viserai. And then you basically had New was the only one like really countering that. And then Prism was just kind of hunting them. And then other than that, it was like pretty hard to play anything else. So I went to 3 RTNs on the season, 1 limited, 2 constructed. I made top 8 at the first 2 and lost in the first round, so I didn't get my invite. And then in the third one, I brought Azalea just for fun. And my pairings were Assassin, Jarl, Assassin, Assassin. So I went 2-2, which, I'll take going 2-2 into that spread. But didn't get my invite through RTNs. I don't know how ELO's going to work. But I don't know. I enjoyed the season. I know some people by the end were getting a little jaded with the aggro. I think people are pretty over Zen. I'm over Zen. I'm ready for him to get out of the meta.
You said the word frustrated earlier. Are you going to say frustrated again on this time or no?
Well, frustrating in the sense that I made top 8 twice in the first 2 and then lost my first round, both in games that like I kind of felt like I shouldn't lose. Like the first one was a draft one, and I was 1 of 2 Arachne, and I played against a Fang who just never got online, but just curved out every turn. Like drew like 3 red, like 1/1 cost, 2/0 cost, and then just went like 0 cost pump, sword, 1 cost react, sword, 0 cost react, like every single turn, and I still almost won. And I was like, ugh, okay, well, I'll get him next week. And then I top 8 with New, and then I lose a game to Zen because I just like couldn't draw damage all game, and like I'm like controlling the Zen, like not letting them pop off, but like I couldn't just do any damage, like because I couldn't draw my Nyx next to any 1 cost, so I was just blocked with them all. But yeah, so that's why it was frustrating. I mean, I still had fun playing. I enjoy playing New. I enjoy playing Azalea for the most part. And this limited format's great. I really like it. But yeah, I think come the end of the season post Viserai, I think the meta was a little bit less interesting. Which I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that's fascinating because it seems like whenever somebody leaves the meta, for the majority of the part, like things get so much more interesting because there's, it's a bit of a shakeup. But maybe what you're saying is just like the opposite of that, and I find that kind of fascinating, and I wonder why that is. Maybe just because like aggro feels really boring, I guess, potentially to just play against over and over. Like everybody's just doing a bunch of damage, and you just have to try to not die to a bunch of damage. Is that what's going on, or?
Ish. I mean, like Aurora is doing interesting things in a sense. Like there's some creativity with Aurora builds. It is at its core a 0-for-4 deck. But there is interesting things you're doing, and there is decision making and setup. I do think that the ninjas are unfortunately not that interesting at the moment. At least in my experience, like Zen and Syndra are just.
Has Ninja ever been interesting?
I enjoy Ira a lot. I think Ira, which is weird because she like her hero ability is the least interesting, like on its face, but like it gives you the most flexibility to build the deck however you want. So I actually do think Ira is quite interesting, and I was very surprised that she only won 2 RTNs in the last week. I think she's quite good. But yeah, you can make the argument that Ninja's not very interesting in general. But I don't know. Syndra's close. Syndra's close.
I think what's interesting about what you're saying is like, okay, what happened in all of this, and like also I'll share my RTN stuff. Like, I did not do as well. I did not make a top 8 this time. It was frustrating because I made a top 8 last time, last spring, RTN is like, oh, I have made a new step of making top 8. So it was kind of frustrating. I will say I love this store, but my draft RTN that I went to was my least favorite RTN I've ever played in my entire life. And it's like, I don't want to have that experience 4 years into the game. I kind of want to have the idea of like, oh, the worst parts of this game are over with and like whatever. But it was legitimately, the judge is awful. And I think he made a decision that everyone was pissed about and sent a whole bunch of like, LSS, can you not have this judge mess with us? Because we had 2 people trusted in the community who are like, I bet we're probably playing next round. And they're like, you want to put $1 on it? And the judge waited for them to like put $1 on it and shake their hands. And then he DQ'd both of them. And he was like, it should be from the entire tournament. Let me check. And it was like, oh, it's just next game. And it was like, clearly they're not betting money on the game. Like, and he was trying to justify it as like, oh, if I don't DQ you now, people are going to start betting on Fab all the time. And it's like, shut the fuck up, dude. And like, this isn't like, it's one of those times where like, I know I have an adversarial position against judges and they're doing their best, but it did not feel like he was doing his best. And that put a whole cloud on my pod. It was my pod that had 2 people DQ'd, and like it messed up our pairings. And then it was annoying. My deck was bad anyway because I was in a pod where I draw a it was a Fang Majestic in the first pack, and I'm like, here we go. I got my Majestic. I'm ready to go. There's 4.5 Fangs in my pod now, and the 2 of them were like, I pivoted in pack 2, and you're like, how did you do that? Like, what signals are you reading that's saying take Fang whenever I'm taking Fang in front of you twice? And that was a very like frustrating experience, but it didn't backfire on anybody because they got bye rounds in like round 3 because their opponents got DQ'd, and they got like a 2-1 off a deck that was awful. And that was pretty frustrating. And then that tilted me even further for the second draft. And like homeboy was like coming down and making sure the people that are 0-3 and 1 and 2 are drafting correctly. And it's like there was multiple people in the top 8 things that like had a discrepancy or a mistake and didn't get a DQ. And you're like, why are you caring more about if people are betting $1 than if they have a legal card in their pool? Like, can you focus on being the actual good parts of a judge? And in his thought process, he was like, because I'm such a good judge, I'm going to be doing this and this. And you're like, nobody who's a good judge says they're a good judge. Like, come on. I didn't get to say that 2 weeks ago. And then I had another experience where it was like the worst RTN as a CC player. And you're like, oh my God. Like I'm on a losing streak of, I brought Verdance. I was excited to play Verdance. I'm excited to play Verdance. So the first time I'm like, I don't want to learn the matchup into CYB Jarl. It's going to take me too long. There's probably one person playing CYB Jarl. I won't play them. I'm 2-0, and it's time to play Alan Luber in round 3, and he's on CYB Jarl. And I'm like, even if I had spent 5 hours to learn this matchup and switch 1 or 2 things in my sideboard, I'm not beating him because he's so good at that. And like, he literally surgically beat my fucking ass in like 4 turns of like I've already set up checkmate, but we have to play for another 35 minutes just in case. And you're just like, well, goddamn, like this is just some bad luck here. But then round 1 of my Odyssey, Odyssey's my local store. Great. I play there's 26 of us or whatever. There's 2 Verdants. I play the other Verdants in round 1. And it's like, could you blow it out your fucking ass, Jim? Like, I know I complain about this stuff all the time, but it's like, how am I playing? Like, I'm teched for the field. I'm not teched for the mirror. I'm auto losing the mirror. There's only one other Verdance. I shouldn't be playing them. Guess what? Your round 1 opponent is the Verdance. And you're just like, how am I this unlucky? Am I the only person who's this unlucky that talks about this? Or are other people this unlucky and they're not, or whatever? And like, I know card games are card games. You didn't draw your stuff. And like, It's funny because the week before, whenever I was 2-0, I beat a Viscerai because I literally drew perfect cards. Literally beat someone so badly, but I drew perfectly and I survived with 2 health left. And you're like, that's how bad that matchup is for Verdance, probably, of like, you got to scout, like they got to be greedy and you got to scour. And then that person also played in the next week and like top 4 got their invite. And it was like, thank God you didn't stop me this time around or whatever. But you're like, it's so interesting of, I'm playing Verdance because I saw Arthur Treehay's thing and it looks really cool. I want to play a wizard. Ring of Roses, I've got a cold foil. I want to do this. But it's like I am playing on hard mode, or I've been spending time on Florian. I've got the Icelander knowledge in the back of my brain, put them together to do Verdance. But then round 2, right after I lose to the other Verdance, it's a Zin, which is a good matchup, unless they draw perfectly and cheat every time. And you're like, that's what they did. And you're just like, how does this deck have no like weakness? And I think one thing that I'm pissed about with Zen right now is I'm tired of the Zen player being like, I got to cheat. I'm going to go look through my deck and love this dude to death. But this one dude picked out 3 cards and like did the play lines one by one and took like 5 minutes. And I'm like, what are you doing? You don't know your bread and butter combos? And I was kind of like, why are you slow rolling me? Just kill me. And they were like, no, like sometimes you can mess it up. And I'm like, how can you mess it up? You can pick any card in your deck. That's not how my brain works. Like when you learn Street Fighter and you're playing Akuma, you know, okay, how much about health do you have and what character are you? If I do Raging Demon after my option select FADVC combo, they're going to be dead. How do you not know that for like, if I transcend and go grab my Chase the Tail for the 3rd/4th time in a row because I put it on the bottom of my deck, how do you not know it's going to kill me if I have a healing potion in hand? And if I don't have a healing potion, I survive with 1. And you kill me with the tiger in like 2 turns. Like, just fucking do it and kill me already. And the Zen people are like, oh man, it took me 2 turns longer to kill you than I thought. I thought I was getting fatigued. And it's like, how did you think that? You have literally your Kakara and your Make a Tiger that does 1 is 2+1 shitty blocks for everyone for the rest of the game. How do you think you're getting fatigued? What are you talking about? And like, I'm tired of the people that have all of the money in the world being like, God, it felt like I was poor there for a second because it took me a while longer than I thought to buy that dress. And you're like, I just want some good cards for heroes I play. And like, it was interesting seeing Verdance getting some wins in RTN. And I was like, okay, it's doable. And like, I was playing Verdance because my local meta loves assassins, and Verdance crushes assassins, in my opinion. I'm really good at it in what I was doing in theory. I didn't play a single fucking assassin in any of the RTNs I played.
They were all playing like, me.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And they were like making top 8. And I was kind of like, the whole reason I'm doing this is to prey on the assassins. I don't see a single one. Jim, blow it out your fucking ass already. And like, I'm tired of the.
That's just how it be sometimes.
You know? This is just how it be. But this is just how it be for 4 years. And you have all these other people that are like, oh, I crushed my 9-0 at my armory, or 9-0 at my RTN playing Syndra, too easy. And you're like, all the people that don't find Ninja numbingly boring are going to nationals right now.
I feel like, well, okay, hold on. Thank you, everyone. That has been our segment, Blake Against the World. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Sponsored by Fab Foundry. Affiliate link below. I think the same, anything that's competitive, nothing is fair. Like my basketball team did not make the playoffs, but one of our local teams wound up staying in a low division that they shouldn't be in and crush the living shit out of everybody. And like, how is that fair? They definitely should have been like up one higher and beat the crap out. It was like not even close. So it sucks. And it's like, it's hard to say like, well, you just got to kind of fucking deal with that, dude. But that's like kind of part of it as well. And if you keep, I don't know, at it long enough, or what your tolerance is for long enough, or you think back broadly enough, you can see that there's, highs and lows. And it's just like, you got to be able to deal with the lows. You know what I mean? And not give them as much time potentially as you do celebrate your like good moments. Does that make sense? If you were asking for advice or anything, that would be my advice.
I have a question kind of related. So, Blake, you are an enjoyer of Aurora, and Aurora is obviously very strong right now. So, I just want to like get into the decision making to bring Verdance over Aurora, right? Like, in a way, you're opening yourself up to more variance, and this is, I'm asking you, but I'm kind of reflecting on myself because I do this. Like, I brought Azalea, right? That was like distinctly not a good choice. Like, I should have just played New or Marionette. So I'm curious. I want to hear your thought process. Like, why not bring Aurora when she's clearly in such a good spot now, and bring a deck that's kind of more under the radar?
So to be honest, I was playing Aurora, and then Jarl came out on November 29th. And any kind of fun I had with Aurora, there's a couple people that play Jarl, and maybe I don't like losing to them. And then it was like, what's a deck that I can play into Jarl that wins? I'm going to focus on playing Florian for a bit because I have matchup into Jarl. When Jarl plays into Remembrance, it's go fuck myself. And Roiling came out, and that's kind of go fuck myself as Florian. But like, Aurora gets owned by Jarl. I was also playing Syndra and getting owned by Jarl. I know Jarl is going to be in my local meta, so I was like, I can't play either of these because the auto loss. Will I face into those Jarls? Who knows? I probably should have played Syndra and just gem lucked, but I can't gem luck as a mental thought because I've never gem lucked in my life. Like the people that have made a top 8 in an anti meta for them and lost in top 8, and then just been like remember that time where it was like Tao Tao won with Arachne, and it's like, how did you get living legend points with Arachne? And it's like, didn't play a illusionist for any rounds of those, and it's like, I can't do that in my meta.
Levi on turbo boost dash and just basically a layup. That's why. It's Levi's fault. It's Levi's fault.
And you're just like, I don't even think like hoping and praying. And like, I think what's interesting, we got 67 heroes now in CC. So it's like, if you have a bad matchup, you can't like prepare for it. You have 80 cards. You can't whatever. So my Aurora matchup was losing to Victor and Jarl so badly that instead of being like, I'm just going to play into the field and hope for the best, I was like, I know people are going to be playing Guardians locally because they just can't give it up. So I'm going to play something else. And like, I was enamored by the Verdance list and played it for like 10 days before I played it at a whatchamacallit. Maybe it was even less than that, maybe like 6 days. So it is kind of like, what did you expect, Blake? You had 6 days of practice, and some of these people have been playing longer. But like, Aurora is equal parts. Like, I like that deck, but I didn't play it all of December because of the Yarlos and Victor problem. And everyone has kind of like done different things with that deck now. Of like, we're gonna use Snapdragon Scalers, and you got to use this card instead. And I was like, I don't really like that play style. I like my old play style. And then like, I'm playing Verdance, and I'm like ready to go. Like, I'm gonna block this Aurora deck out all day, and then they start 3 turns out of 6 turns with, I'm going to play with my embodiment of lightning up, I'm going to play Exude Confidence. And it's like, I'm about to take 18 damage right now because I have 2 D-reacts in my hand and none of my earth cards block more than 4 because of how they want Decompose to work. Like, why does that fucking card not say Felling of the Crown has 8 damage on it in the bottom left, but it's -4 if you don't have any earth cards in your fucking thing? Why does it go the other way? I know why, but like there's just clear, and I think that's what's frustrating me is like, if I'm playing against an earth deck, I just play my Exude Confidence. My tech card nails you. And like, if I'm playing Verdance and my opponent's playing AB0, and this has happened, I think 5 or 6 times, they're playing AB0 and can race the Verdance out and crush me first. I don't have the like combo potential of the Kano to get it done. If I'm blocking and doing all this stuff, when it's like Kano can just go boom boom in 2 turns and kill you, like we need to get the fear of God in these people's heads where they like, I know I'm playing a red line deck, but I have to play AB3 anyway and put more blues in my deck.
Yeah.
This is meandering and whatever now, but it is just a like, your tech card is crushing me. My tech cards that I'm putting in you, Scour can get rid of 8 of your rune chants, and you're like, cool, make 10 rune chants and pass. You're like, what?
So the reason you weren't playing Aurora is because you felt like Guardians were going to be there and crush you, and so you switched to trying to play Verdance.
Right. And then I lost to CYB Guardian. If she beats regular Guardian, CYB Guardian is like, God damn it.
Zayne, why did you pick Azalea then? Just to ask the same question to you.
In short, like, I don't know. I don't think it was like a good choice. I think I had played a lot of new. Like, I played basically only new for many events in a row now. And I don't know if any, like, if you play new out there, you know the feeling. But, like, when you're doing everything that you can and then you, like, lose a close game, it's, like, one of the most frustrating decks to lose with. Or maybe that's just for me, but I don't know. It's, like, losing on new is, like, very frustrating for some reason. And, like, I had a bunch of, like, strong results that led to nothing, like top 8 to lose, and then, you know, just, like, did well at the Portland Calling, but didn't, like, cash, and, like, all these things. So I was like, okay, let me just, like, try a different deck. People won't be, like, expecting Azalea right now. Maybe I can, like, target the Syndras. And then, of course, I didn't find any Syndras. But, I mean, I don't think, for what it's worth, I don't think Azalea is, like, dead in the water against Assassin in general. So I wasn't, like, counting those as, like, auto losses. I just count those as, like, mildly unfavored. Or mediumly unfavored, depending on the Assassin. But
right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think it was partially just, like, this sounds like fun. And I want to have time between rounds, which I haven't had in a while, because new takes so long.
And then you went 2-2. So then how do you feel after making this, like, you know, you go to this RTN and you're just like having hope in your eyes, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was frustrating, but it also felt like it kind of like what Blake is saying. Like, I don't know if I had a whole lot of agency in the losses that I had. I did make a mistake in my first loss that, like, I in hindsight shouldn't have done. I took, like, the aggressive, like, you know, 60% line to play for something high, and then, like, whiffed the blind Azalea, and then it was like, okay, well, I think I lose from here, and I should have been accounting for that more.
Do you guys then think, like, the agents, like, obviously we want agency in the game, but then potentially, do you think sometimes in the game the agency is actually in who you bring to the particular day?
Yes. The agency is, like, in your deck building a lot of the time, and there is
when the decks are $800 to $1,400. No, like, some of us can only like thank God I've been playing for 4 years. But are you going to ask a new player if they have agency when they're like, no, I bought a bunch of Junted and, like, I have the Syndra cards. and I have to hope.
Yeah.
If I'm in a huge Jarl meta, I'll probably quit playing for 2 months because I can't beat Jarl. And then I'm listening to other people post about their stuff and like, oh, the Sinders are rush killing Jarl in our meta, like crushing him, running him over. He needs more tools. I'm like, what fucking put red Arctic Incarceration in your deck and you get a free turn? Like, what are you talking about?
Well, yeah. Zayne, you were also gonna. Whoa,
Sorry, Zayne.
Karate chop. You also think it depends on the 80 sometimes.
Well, I mean, what Blake is saying is super valid and like as valid as it's ever been right now, right? Like with how expensive cards are, and a big offender is Rosetta, right? Like, which who knows if that's organic or if somebody's just being weird and buying out Rosetta. But like, if you want to play Earth or Lightning, which like that's a lot of heroes right now that are cool and interesting and strong. Too bad, because the Majestics are all $30 each at a minimum, right? And like, oh, you want to play Assassin? Well, have fun playing without Codex unless you're like willing to spend PlayStation 5 money on them.
So
it's just like
5. Get a place at a Codexes.
True. Just get the Marvels while you're at it. But like, it's weird. Like I felt like I overspent on the Marvels, right? Like I spent like $250 per Marvel back when like on release because like I needed them because like I was big into Ranger, and now that's like a bargain. Like it just feels weird. Anyways.
Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, the agency is kind of in your deck selection and like knowing going in what's going to be hard and what you don't want to see, and then hoping for a bit of luck, right? Like again, we're shuffling cards into a deck like in the same way we're randomly assigning who you play round 1.
Yeah.
There is luck involved, and when you get unlucky, you have to find a way to like enjoy it, right? Like,
yeah,
I got paired into somebody who I drove with who was on CYB new, right? That should be terrible matchup for Azalea. But I was just like, instead of like just giving up, I was like, all right, let me see if I can just like full turbo race, like no blocks. I'm just going to like do damage before they can play their CYBs. And then I won the game.
Yeah.
Which is like a game I could have easily like gotten frustrated and resigned. And
totally.
I don't know.
My take on this whole situation is I feel like this is something I went through years ago of like wanting to do well at stuff and then feeling like I didn't like that the agency was being put upon like my deck choice, you know, and like what I put in there and stuff for whatever reason, or like my hero choice, you know, that just felt really stressful to me. And that trying to like meta, especially like RTNs and ProQuests, always seemed really hard. And maybe that's because of like the geographical issue I have for where stuff is. Like I can never figure out what the meta is going to be. So it's like, it's always blind, you know, whether I'm going to Oregon or the Bay or whatever. So I just like could not handle that level of variance to like travel 4 hours and then also just have picked the wrong deck for the day. And financially, you know, moving forward with the game, I was like, well, I can't keep like adding heroes or other things to my like repertoire. You know, I need to be able to figure out a healthy way for me to interact with this game, you know. And thankfully, I have just kind of really zoned in on Assassin in the last couple of years here, and have been okay with just my life as like, which has been very fruitful. You know, I did not see this coming, that we would get so many different assassins and I would have such a variety to choose from. But the way I've dealt with it is just be like, I just am going to specialize. And when the meta is good for me, then it's good for me. And when it's not, like, I will just have fun not doing as well, but I get to play like my hero and then hopefully, you know, I gain enough of a reputation to earn a little respect across the table, and then that'll be like my victory, whether or not I win or lose, right? And so that's like how I've had to deal with it, and it's been like financially way better. Like I don't have to buy sealed product; I only buy the stuff I need for like one class, and hopefully now there are not any new freaking assassin cards for a while, and I can recoup my bank account, you know?
I used to like when the game was young, right? Like Monarch Tales of Aria, I like wanted to have the option to play any deck.
Yeah.
So like I may not like buy it all day one, but like I would, someone has a trade binder, they have a Bolton Majestic that I don't explicitly need right now, but like sure, I'll take it. I want to have the option. And then somewhere around like maybe Outsiders or Heavy Hitters, I was like, this is expensive. Like trying to like have the cards to play every hero. And so I've like been offloading like my mech stuff was like the first to go. Like,
yeah,
I don't like mech, right? Like I don't need this. And maybe one day I'll sell my ninja stuff. Like I had a cold foil Mask Momentum that I sold to Jarek this last weekend, and yeah, I think specializing in, I think 2 classes is like a great a way to do it. Like have your main and then have your like secondary, which is kind of like a fighting game thing, right? Like you have your main and then you have your like counter pick.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like super thought out. Like you can pick 2 that you just like. But I think having access to like switching is pretty nice. Like, which like for me, it's Assassin Ranger is like my main 2, which again, they have a lot of overlap. And I still like to play other stuff as well, but like I am kind of ironing down into like those 2 as like what I want to be on.
Yeah.
So all that being said, I am very much like, that is such a good way to think about this, is what I would tell new people. And as the person who did that with Brute, I think there was a lot of like, why are we always bringing this up? Why are we always saying this? Do you ever shut up about this? How can you talk about this for another year? It is frustrating to go, I will be the Brute player in this microcosm, in this thought process of I will focus on playing Brute. I will keep all my Brute cards. I will get every mat. I will be playing Brute solidly, waiting for these good cards to show up. And then our good cards are not as good. And then our slot cards are, sometimes slot cards completely change a deck. Like, look at this new weapon for Prism. You can play her in a completely different way, and it's clearly the good way to play now. That hasn't happened for Brute. We haven't done this stuff for Brute. Or when's the last time we had 3 Brute things in 6 products? That hasn't happened. And like Assassin has blown up of like, you have 18 different ways to play Assassin, but it's all congealed to like the best way to play it is 1 or 2 ways. And like for the Brute thing, like, oh, we'll pick 2 classes to pick. The 2 classes I picked like 3 years ago to get good at are Warrior and Brute, like a fucking idiot. And it's like that's what's frustrating is Warrior, every time a new set comes out, like, what do you mean Warrior just had a new set? Every single fucking card in that set says the word dagger on it, so you can't use any of them in Dorinthia. And even one of the best Dorinthia players in the world, I'm excited to get more inspiration. I was going to get coaching with this person. They're card guys. His Dorinthia list has CYB in it because there's nothing they have designed that gives Dorinthia more chances of being good at than just potentially healing 6. And that blows my mind of like, CYB no longer feels interesting. That is what we wrote in our notes. Here's where this is going to get in of like, CYB cannot be the be all catch all of like crutch of design of like, well, if you really want to play this shitty hero, why don't you play these 6 cards that'll help you heal 29 points of health or whatever the number is. Maybe it's 24. And like, you'll have more agency by sticking around and living longer and running your opponent out of cards. fatiguing them, or oh, why would you play AB when you could heal 5 and block 5 root chants that way? And
Right.
it's the fact that that is working at the highest level in the World Championship final. It's working at the local level at RTNs of like I lost in top 8 to a Bravo CYB, or quote unquote I'd be going to London too. I don't know if I'd be going to London, but like I that I guess you don't get it if top 4 you have to win it all the way or whatever. So that wasn't the invite for that one. But that's what's going in my head. It was like brand new player, like, and like, oh, if you pick Ninja as your like, I'm gonna focus on this class, Syndra has a different $150 legendary you had to buy that you didn't have if you had Zen. Zen had different legendaries than Katsu had, and also so does what's her face. Ira has different like loadout too, so you need every single strong generic card if you're Ira that you never bought for any of the other ninjas.
Yeah.
So this logic doesn't even really work unless you like, oh, I picked Runeblade and Runeblade, but then it's like, oh, that year and a half period. Oh, and that's another thing.
No,
like,
it does work, because then it's like the expense you spend is capped, right? You're like, boom, now I'm done. You know, there's nothing else to collect. You don't have to get the whatever, the fanciest version of that card, you know, and it makes it easier for trading if you have stuff to trade also. You know what I mean? Because you're like, I only need a play set of this one Majestic, and then I can play this hero, you know? So it does to a degree. It makes, you know what I mean?
Also, like, you're an assassin person. Would you not spend money on high seas if there's no assassin cards in it? Would you skip a whole thing?
Absolutely. I can't wait to not buy any cards in high seas.
But you bought a whole Florian deck from Rosetta. So it's like, I'm an assassin boy.
Stupid.
But like,
Got excited.
that's what's, I don't think LSS wants there to be the thought process of like a large player base of our group just doesn't buy this new set. So it behooves them to go, well, the brand new aggro deck that's going to be the best out of high seas is the Scurvy Pirate that you need to buy the high seas cards for, because they only work with people that have Scurvy tokens.
Totally.
And then with our
high seas, vitamin C,
yeah,
scurvy tokens.
With our non-rotating thing, it's like whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Florian is a bit of an outlier for me personally, because I've been playing the game so long and was a huge Runeblade guy that I just had all of the Runeblade backbone stuff, you know? And it honestly is not that many cards from Rosetta that you really needed.
$40 Majestic 3 times.
But if you bought it when it came out, it wasn't like I paid nothing for my not nothing, but I paid in the $15 range.
$20. Yeah. And it's a bit of a poor, Rosetta is a poorly designed in that way for the secondary market, when you are like, the shell for both Florian and Verdance is the same. You know,
kind of Jarl, depending on how you play it.
Yeah, and Jarl. So then you've got 3 heroes that are like kind of viable and kind of popular, and all need the exact same like 12 or 15 cards, you know? So that was like my critique of that set, right? Is that you need Fellings and Plow Unders and Carapace for both Florian and Verdance, and it doesn't make those heroes feel very different, because you're just like, here's the core cards of that deck, and they just go in this deck because they're like just the best cards, and there's nothing too different that both of those heroes are doing that makes it so you need the cards, or excuse me, those cards are so powerful and so integral to Earth that you need those for your hero to do something. Does that make sense? So that's like a design flaw, I think, that's harming the game players financially right now, that was designed into it. Make sense?
Yeah, the Earth Majestic thing is a bit weird. There's not a lot of like examples of that in other. There's not a lot of overlap like that happens anywhere else in the game.
Yeah.
Which is good because it's weird, but like maybe Plow Under should have been a rare, or like maybe like there really should be Aether Earth Vein, right? Like the classic like desire from Verdance players.
2 for 5. If you fuse it, gain 2 life.
Or if you decompose it, right?
Yeah.
I think another thing that's positive about this is, wow, Ring of Roses got me to play Verdance.
Yeah.
It's one card.
Yeah.
You can print one card, put a legendary tag on it, or that's super powerful. Like in my very narrow mindset of stupidity, in my mind, I'm like, what's the one Ring of Roses I could have for Rhinar? And that could work, of like just slam down an aura that sticks out forever. If you're gonna have all this aura destruction in a couple classes, okay, give Rhinar an aura that stays up forever of like unending anger. Your attack actions do +1 damage, and like even when they block, so now all of my attacks pop heralds for the rest of my life, because you don't want anybody have more than 6 on their attacks anymore except for Guardian. Like that does seem like a design choice they are doing with Failing of the Crown and Plow Unders, of these are 6 and 8 damage attacks that aren't, so they can't block angels. And like, give me something where that makes sense, instead of like quit writing 6 in the bottom left of every single one of my cards after Tear Limb from Limb, where the whole thing from Tear Limb from Limb is 12, 14, 18, like whatever. I think the other thing that really is starting to, this is no direction right now, but I do want to talk about this, is like, why, like, I almost lost to a Cosmic Awakening, a 9 cost, 15 damage attack at the end of the turn, or the end of the game 2 Thursdays ago. And I blocked it out because I had a bunch of health. I had all equipment. I was Florian, and I survived with like 3 and like fatigued that Zen basically, or barely won before I got fatigued. And that was so refreshing, of like, I want cards in the game that cost more than 3 resources, that's available to more heroes, that has the ability to go all in on some turns, of like, why is Guardian the only class that has cards over 3 costs that do more than 8 damage? Like, I want a 9 damage arcane spell that costs 6 to send off. And like, I who cares about racing? I'm going to keep 2 blues and do 9 damage to you because you only have AB2. And like, you have to disrupt me. You have to get the blues out of my hand. You have to do whatever you have to do normally. Like, why do we not have, like, Dorinthia has a +7 buff that cost 4 or something to her sword. Like, I know we have the +6 stuff to axes that cost a shitload and that stuff, but like there's some of this stuff, like I want the design of the game, like a generic even, to be like a 6 cost. We don't have a 6 cost generic at all. And what could we do with that kind of design?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to be careful with that a little bit, only because it can become a hold your hand, don't block, just send it if it's too strong. Like, I think Cosmic, you bring up Cosmic, which is like the perfect example of like, you have to work to get there. Because you have to flip chi, you have to have multiple chi in hand, which is like innately bad in some scenarios. So stuff that makes you work for it, I think is very cool.
And like, I think I put out, not that I'm trying to become a game designer, but like, it is interesting almost losing a Cosmic Awakening. And it's like, how does Zen have an end game finisher if you're trying to fatigue him? Like, this is where Zen should be bad. And he has one card that he can put in there of, now I'm not bad against you trying to fatigue me. My negativity of having those chi cards turns into my biggest strength whenever I do a 9 for 15 after you've been blocking 2 2 2 2 2. You put all your block wide stuff. You don't put in unmovables against this hero because you're going to be sitting on it for the whole game. And now here's the best attack, a 9 for 15 or a 9 for 20, God forbid. And so in my mind, I'm like, this almost feels like it could be like a Florian option or an Earth card option. And I wrote a tweet out where it was like, do we have a 3 cost or a 6 cost like legendary Earth attack where it's a 0 attack, but flip all of your Earth card stuff over in your banish zone? You get rid of your hero power forever, but now you have a 12 to 18 to 24 damage attack at the end of the game, and it's like, fuck you, you didn't kill me. And
That's cool.
And the whole year went by. Winter went by, spring went by, summer went by, fall went by. I have a year of seasonal power. I'll dump a year of seasonal power on you for 18 to 24 damage. Like, harvest happened or whatever. Like that's a thing where I'm like, why does Zen have that as a mystic hero, but I don't have that as an Earth hero? And it makes more thematic sense to me in Earth. So like, it doesn't make sense for a ninja to have that either. So whenever it comes to, it doesn't make sense thematically, canonically, or class wise.
It's talent, though. It's a talent card.
Yeah.
It does fit the mystic talent a little bit. It does feel weird when Zen does it. Like, it feels... But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, Zen's supposed to be the one who probably ignores that class in their design, or ignores that card in their design. But I haven't had Cosmic Awakening played on me by a new or a what's her face? Enigma.
Okay, what would we name the Earth card that flips over all your banished cards? Crop rotation.
I feel like it should be a Millennium Tree, like
Millennium Harvest.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about, well, who knows? Like, I don't know if it could be Harvest or it could just be like, the strength of the oak has grown into what it needs to be. It's a good name for a card that rolls off the tongue.
Let me look up farming words.
Season, yeah. Yeah, there's something there. I like that design, though. It's the same thing as like Cosmic a bit, where you have to work for it.
Yeah.
Over a game, like it's like your little side quest that you're.
Yeah,
achieving.
and I always like that stuff that's like fits into what I'm going to be doing already, and then I can get a payoff.
And it gets rid of your hero power. Like, it's not.
It has a cost.
Like, you can't do it twice. Even if you remembrance it back, you can't. Like, that's why I was like, make it a legendary and give it good stats or whatever. But like, you could only ever do this once. It's not I could scam you by playing this over and over again.
Yeah. Gosh, what would it be? It would have to be like annual or once in a lifetime, 100-year growth or something like that,
10K year reunion.
Yeah.
Something
Felling like of the millennial tree. Hey. Oh. There you go.
But that's kind of the opposite of what's happening.
I know.
I mean,
unless you're chopping the millennium tree down to land it on your opponent in a act like of desperation.
Villager and Super Smash Bros. You like chop the tree down.
Yeah. Like that.
Back to your most important point that you said there, Blake. Count your blessings is lame. Get it out of here. The Count Your Blessings experiment happened. It was interesting for a minute. It did well. It did its job-ish, whatever that job is, and we're ready for it to be done.
Yeah. I've been saying since day one that it's just boring card design anyway. For me,
Yep.
maybe somebody really likes it for some reason, and I don't think it's a fun mini game or really that exciting to play against. You go, oh, you took a bunch of damage. Okay, you're gonna play CYB, and then erase what I did. Great, perfect. Draw 4.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it's the whole idea of like cards in your deck matter. Like what? Yeah, like normally when you attack me for 6, I'm gonna block 2 times. But if I pitch a CYB, 1 card goes back in and I gain health. It's a 1-for-1 exchange. Like that's literally how boring the math is for that stuff. Of like, I just boil it down to why is CYB better than blocking twice? You put 1 card back in your deck, and you're like, that's not how I want to tell people how to play this game. Like when people boil down this game to a math only game and call it soup, that one time they didn't like that meta after heavy hitters.
Heavy mid-range soup.
They just got to, I don't like this meta, so I'll come up with the derogatory term for it and everyone will jump on it. Like,
Wait,
when
we
you
didn't
boiled,
like heavy hitters? Is that what you're saying?
some people did. The people who didn't called it mid-range soup, and then that became a whole thing. But when you boil this game to only math, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that was a mathy meta, but it was like also still super open. It's like, oh great, all we're doing is math. Perfect. Then I'll just figure something creative out, or whatever. I don't know. I really liked that meta.
That meta was fun.
Yeah.
Dory was annoying, but that's fine.
But like not oppressive,
Yeah.
In a way that sometimes aggressive decks can be, right? Is like, I think that's one of the issues I have with Zen is like, all right, you're going to do a bunch of damage and then you're just going to like take all of your armor and block and keep all of your cards or use a card and then you get a chi. And like, that's just like pretty tough to deal with, when it feels like there are no downsides for your deck, in your considerations. You're like, oh, okay, well, we'll just slap these things in here and these are really good. So, that's why that it can be frustrating for me personally,
It's funny that they banned Stride of Reprisal when they banned Art of War, like the boots that create the tiger in hand. But they banned Art of War, which was the offender of the combo. And now Zen gets to play Pouncing Paws, which is just a 4-value leg equipment for some reason. Like, just a common that's just always worth 4, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Never less and often more. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, your first Chase the Tail is completely free, because you get to play Pouncing Paws. Whatever.
I think that is a core design of Fab that has perplexed me, and it's been kind of like, that's just how it works, is like there's Phantasm in the game, but then here's all these tools to turn off Phantasm or to get around Phantasm or to make Phantasm good for you.
And it's not equitable for every hero, and I mean, we have to like detach ourselves from that being an equitable thing, but it's also weird to not at this point have the sort of introspection about your design to think like, okay, like we're just, for some reason we decided to do it this time, but we're not going to do it this time. But then we're going to do it again for some other hero where we're going to like give them the tools for them to have no downside, even though we're going to build in this downside. And I don't understand when that's appropriate and when that's not appropriate, I guess. And maybe I don't need to, and I just need to accept it. But I feel like as an invested party into this, it does help to get some level of understanding,
Because like one thing that just popped into my head is like, oh, there's a brand new card, Last in Rosetta, where it was a 3 for 7. This can't be defended by auras. Cut through the facade. Is this great design? Okay, it's going to be harder for some heroes to block. If it hits you, you also can break one of their auras. So if your Prism opponent has a Pierce Reality on board and like has auras that they would block with from the blues, they're going to be screwed or whatever. And like in my mind, I'm like, how has there not been a warrior with like a hero power that says if you block with D reacts, give piercing to your attacks, or like if your opponent blocks with a D-React, it gives your attack +1 or +2 damage on your weapons. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to be attacking you with weapons and they're going to be a pain in the ass to fucking block. Because if you do use the best defending cards, you're giving me piercing. And
Well,
like,
just also the design of printing silver bullet cards never works. It never has worked. It never has worked once. We have these silver bullets. We have cards we're in quotation supposed to include, and like it just doesn't work out that way, you know. Whereas
Pick
like
the pieces is pretty good.
yeah,
Like without pick to pieces,
but Malign wasn't. So
Malign was bad. Malign.
So if you get your second silver bullet for each hero, you'll be fine.
But,
Assassins
like,
just got their second bullet before everyone else did.
Poison
Malign
the
was
Well,
actually Poison the Well is pretty lame. Yeah,
you know, Snag,
Snag was important.
cut
Snag.
through the facade, right? Like these cards
Back to Reality is another one.
Yeah, like these cards like aren't in because of in the game it's best to just be more consistent, you know. And the reason like you put warmongers in certain heroes really well is because it's like really free, you know what I mean? Whereas like in other heroes it's like a super big cost. So I don't know. Anyway, warmongers is probably also one of the better silver bullet cards, but historically I do not think they really work.
Now that we're through this RTN version of this, one thing that has been in my mind now that we're near the 2-hour mark and we'll be wrapping up soon. Why do you guys think they said we didn't think you guys would like Hunted as much as you guys have? And I guess kind of seeing that as a business thing, why would you ever say that out loud? And also like with that sentence being said by the highest person at the company, like what do you think their plan was for Hunted of like why did they make Hunted if they didn't think we would have liked it? I don't know. Such a perplexing layer to me of this.
I haven't thought about this. I think that statement came purely out of the fact of like they don't want to just say every next set is our best one and become annoying. Like I mean, but seriously, right? Like ahead of Part the Misfail, they did say that, right? They were very aggressive about the Part the Misfail. Like we're super proud of this, and then they kind of didn't say that for Rosetta, and they kind of didn't say that for Hunted, and then they are saying it about High Seas, and I think some of it is organic, like that's just how they feel about it. It's just what they like, and I think part of it is just being like kind of intelligent and strategic about not just like being a broken record of the next set's the best one, the next set's the best one, the next set's the best one. And I think also is that they raised the price. So I think that like maybe they had kind of braced for impact a little bit, that like maybe that would be bad for sales, where it turns out that hasn't really been the case seemingly. So those are my two thoughts. Like I think it's somewhat discipline. It's somewhat just like human nature. Like maybe James White just likes pirates and Part the Misfail. Like it might just come down to that as a concept.
I think maybe both of you weren't on maybe we talked about this briefly on the last pod or something like that, but you know, I had my take then, which seemed my thing was like totally perplexed with Blake. Like you've done the coolest thing ever we've ever seen with a hero is give them 6 other heroes to then turn into and then you also made those Marvels. Like, how are we not going to go fucking bananas over that? And the fact that you printed another ninja, and we're like, okay, great. We know this ninja is going to be pretty freaking broken and super good, because that's what ninjas do when they come out, is they're like one of the best classes in the game historically. So of course this is going to be a great set. For me, what I think now is just kind of what Zayne said there, is it just like wasn't their thing. They like designed it and they were like, yeah, I mean, whatever. This is just like, I'm more excited about fucking blues and being enlightened and then being on a ship or something, or being a Kraken man. Like those things are just more of my taste, right? Whereas, for maybe some of us, we were just super into freaking
Kraken
spider,
man.
So like, I'm not that excited for high seas at all. That's like not my thing. Pirates is like not my thing, So
I actually do have one more question.
great. Let's have questions.
This could be I don't know if from now on I need to go, this could be the last thing I say. It's more this RTN season. I think people were like, holy crap, it's going to be so tumultuous, because Viscerai is going to go the first week, then Zyn will go the second week. And that isn't what happened. We do finally get our first living legend in almost a year, but we thought there would be such turnover, and we may be living with Zyn for another 3 months before somebody takes him over the final layer of it. But like, in you guys' head, were you guys expecting a crazy different meta than what we got, because we would have lost all of Viscerai, Zyn, and I don't know who the third one was going to be. I remember people being
Dash
like,
is really close.
We may even lose this one. I was like,
New Enigma are really close.
They still have a ways to go. Yeah, I mean, I think people were wishfully thinking that it would be Zyn and Viscerai, and myself included. Like, I'm ready to move on from them. I really don't want Zyn to be legal for PT London, selfishly.
I mean, I would. It sucks that you guys are about to go internationally, and maybe that is a reality you'll have to deal with. And like, I think it's funny because Zyn hasn't been around for a year, but boy, do I hate that deck. And like,
it's almost a year, right? Didn't it come out in April or something like that?
I think it's like May or June, right?
Let's see, product releases.
Maybe it is May or June.
Because the people that love playing Zyn, I think they just love winning. If Zyn,
I agree with that. I agree with that entirely.
Because if Zyn was your favorite designed hero ever in Fab, I don't think you really like Flesh and Blood. I think you like winning.
People
May
just
31st.
So it is coming up, but still a little ways away. But people just love doing powerful shit. When shit's broken, it's fun as hell to just be like, you try to stop me, Not saying Zyn is
the stuff Zyn is doing, and not to get too focused on Zyn, is just not very interesting. Like, it isn't. Like, you're playing levels, holding priority, casting cheap, pitching to Zyn. Like, your chase the tail is 7 damage. Cool. Like, that's it. Like, it's just not. It's not that interesting.
And it is whatever it is. The meta is going to be the meta at PT London. I'm just bringing Arachne Marionette, hands down. So fucking prepare, everybody, because I'm going to be.
You're not on Slippy yet.
No, doesn't appeal to me yet.
All right,
that's why. Yeah, totally. People are psyched on it. I'm just not, and that's okay. I'm just more excited to roll my little die and be like, oh, I'm Tarantula? Okay, let me see what my hand is. Wow, this changes everything,
Can I give a fun little anecdote about Marionette transformations?
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot we were going to talk about Marionette. Maybe this is what we'll end the pod with, is Marionette time.
Here we are. We're going to end the pod with Severance, but we'll talk about Marionette right now.
Okay, perfect.
I did 6 transformations in 2 games yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, so 3 each game, nothing too crazy, but 5 out of 6 trapdoor.
Dude, tough.
5 out of 6. I'm like, I should be playing Reinhardt right now.
I don't like that at all. Yeah, that's
One of my
Painter
early
built-
games with Marionette was I made a calculated, uh, on defense. You're like, okay, I got to hold, blah, 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 and then we're going to get to this scenario where I'm going to end with them marked and I will transform. And then I will be in a position to like really kill them because I will have like an extra attack, a hero ability. Basically, I'll have an extra 3 damage on board, and that'll really put me either winning or in the driver's seat.
Oh
And
boy, I wonder where this is going.
yeah, I just can't roll a 6 right now. And then boom, I roll a 6, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I can win now from this position and with this hero ability, And I was like, is this how brute players feel when you're like, all right, the odds are good that I can make this decision to really try to win
Yep.
I have a
dominantly.
67% chance of killing my opponent. That might as well be 0 for me. It literally, I do not do that 2/3 of the time, even though that's what the odds say.
So
You'd be talking to California champion Blake Meyer by now if it was real odds.
I have been loving playing Marionette. I was skeptical based upon my experience with New, where I thought, oh, okay, maybe this is going to be good. But it's been so fun, and I've been refining my list a little bit at a time, especially because I can do it like at a really slow pace because I didn't play at RTNs. And that has been really awesome. And, there's a level of like, I think most of my deck is Majestics right now, like I don't, which feels crazy like that's how that deck is, and the fact that, there's some like really, it's a really aggressive type of assassin, which has been a really fun shift. You basically have 6 copies of Bonds of Agony with Take Up the Mantle, which feels really broken. Sometimes when you're just like, all right, here comes this seemingly innocuous blue, and I have 2 cards in hand, and they're like, okay, what are the odds? No blocks. And you're like, okay, now you took 13 damage, and let me see your hand. Oh, you have 2 cards in there that are the same? Goodbye, those are gone. And then you just basically like win the game from there, which is rad that hero can do that, or that you have more access to a few meaningful head jabs, which I really enjoy that as well. And I like freaking transforming, I don't know if it's like, it's hard to know. And I think this is what I like about the hero. Hard to know whether or not just like, I just want to stay as Arachne Marionette, or if I want to transform and deal with that. But in some games where I'm kind of leaning into that more, like the dynamic shift in how then your 4 cards plus your arsenal card affect what your opponent is doing is crazy and is super fun. It feels like all of a sudden I have like become the Arc Knight, and I have a lot of extra decisions to play. Once I figure out who I've transformed into, like, oh, I'm now Tarantula, and I did just Arsenal like Kiss of Death. Like this is a whole different game I can now play. So it's great. What a great hero. I would say maybe the second coolest designed hero recently behind Jarl. I think Jarl is a great designed hero. I think Arachne Marionette is also a really great designed hero. I think it's really, really wild. Also, classic assassin juice in all of the Majestics. The Majestics are crazy. They're crazy. That's it.
Yeah. I'm having a great time with Marionette as well. I think sometimes you just like play multiple 0 for 4 dagger buffs, and it feels like you're playing ninja, and it feels like you're cheating. But that's what other people get to do. So sure. Like yesterday I got to play 2 upsticks and run and a Savor Bloodshed, and then just tunicked to swing Shelisera for 13. Just like,
Jesus. Draw 3 cards.
good. No, draw one if they're marked. But yeah, it's a crazy hero. I think it's quite good. It's not winning, which is surprising. I don't know if that's just. I mean, it loses to Zen's, what the sentiment seems to be. That's what's happened at all the RTNs in SoCal. Was like Marionette's conversion to top 8 was like insane. Like most of them made it, and then they all lost to Zen's.
Yeah.
So
one thought. Blake, have you played Marionette? Oh, I got all the cards for it, Majestics, and I was excited. And then I was like, I'm going to build this. And then I realized I just lied to you because opening 5, 6, 7 boxes, participation packs, whatever, I still do not have a single Hunter's Clave. And whatever fucking person did the math for the probabilities of Hunter's Clave, you don't have to fire them, but you do have to tell them they were wrong so they don't do this moving forward. Because there's not enough Hunter's Claves for the people that want them. That card should not be $45. I don't ever go this hard on pricing before. It's not because I don't have this one. I understand why other cards are expensive, but for a weapon, it should not be $45 fucking dollars when you need 2 of them. And I hope that's the only thing of me being kind of angry and cursing today. That's the one I actually care about is why are Hunter's Claves more than $1? And we're the people who it doesn't matter that we spoiled the card. We don't have an invested interest or whatever, but like they should be $1. You should not be. I got a Hunter's Clave. I can sell this to a new player for $45. Ooh, what brand new cool $45 card did you get? Oh, the same level of a token that if you're playing Bravo, you get a Nothos for literally free. If you're playing Bravo, you can get a Sledge of Anvilheim for 10 cents. And every card and all these other things are not $45 for a weapon, and they haven't been for 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
You need 2 of them. So it's $90.
Assassin sucks price-wise. For sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, you know?
Clave is pretty egregious, yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. But Hero,
I've seen some people,
Hero fun.
Some people are playing 1 Clave, 1 Mark of the Huntsman, like when they only have 1 Clave. And it's like, you don't lose as much equity as you think. Like, which is not a good solution to the problem, but it is something you can do in the meantime. Like, if you can get 1 or something, then you can just play with 1 Clave, 1 Mark of the Huntsman.
I do most of the game because I like the other one is just for me to flick it when I really need to.
Right, exactly. The first, you rarely double dagger before you flick, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you still intend to double dagger, you can just mark of the Huntsman second. But yeah,
Hunter's Clave right now is like $38, and Cold Foil is $70 something. So like that's where we're at currently. I'm just trying to put some context for people watching.
Yeah.
I mean, I opened 2. I opened 1 in my first case and 1 in my second case, right? So like I'm in an unusual position where I buy more than most people and I like have more access than most people to cards. So it hasn't impacted me directly, but it clearly has to the community. Like our locals, like people need them. Everybody's asking for them. Like I have 2, I can't sell them. I wish I had 5 so I could sell 3.
Yeah.
Like I have with other Majestics, but yeah, it's clearly not printed enough.
There's also crazy play lines in this deck just to move away from price talk get everybody psyched to go buy more Hunter's Claves. Because Kiss of Death, I think, was not my favorite card spoiled, but then it has now turned into it because of I love cards that are flexible. And it's so flexible, you know? Like you can play Savor Bloodshed Codex and then play what I like to call Smooch of Death for 7 and then draw a card. And then you like the other day. So I had that exact play line and I had to discard a card to Codex but I kept Redback in hand, the reaction, and they're not marked, so it costs 1. So I just flicked my other Hunter's Clave in reactions to get my dagger to hit. So then I draw a card off of Saver, and then now I can pitch and go over the top with Redback, or not even pitch, but that then I have like a new card for an option. Redback's online, that goes over the top for 10, and it gets go again. So they like kind of block out, and then now I can play like another card that deals damage, And like that's so sick to be able to do that type of shit in Assassin, those type of tricks, right? Whereas like Arachne is just like, all right, I'm gonna just like slowly over the course of time here kill you, Where
Yeah,
and
like one of the
Huntsman, I suppose. Huntsman.
Yeah, one of the decks I had been sending to Taylor over time was like an aggressive Huntsman deck.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
A Huntsman deck that played like Scarfarous Scars and like that kind of just tried to attack both axes of like, I can threaten fatigue, but I'm going to make you block by getting your life total low by just playing efficient cards, right? Like a lot of 0-for-4s, which Assassin does have with the contracts. But it really wasn't ever good enough. And then they kind of printed a hero that has that ability to attack both axes, like threaten fatigue with things like bonds and persuasive and disruption, but also can just turn on the gas and like present 15 in a way that Assassin never could before.
Which is so fun.
Yeah, it's very fun to play. It feels very powerful.
Yeah, it's great. And I can see the Azalea player in you in how you were talking about your deck, Zayne, where you're like, yeah, you play 3 pumps and then you attack with an arrow. Oh, I mean a dagger. And there's like hit effects that you draw a card,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah. Which is what you have said all the time. You're like, I want Eradicate to be like an Azalea turn where it's like, it's coming in for 10 and I still have like a card in hand, So it definitely, I can see how your list fits that Azalea player build.
Non-attacks are what make Fab great, is what I like. Like when you're attacking all the time, it's like obviously the attacks are interesting. They're the most important part of the game, but the non-attacks are what make the game interesting to me. Like the pumps in Azalea, the reactions, like everything that isn't just this is a head jab, this is a rabble.
Yeah.
Like
the decision on the attack, like do we have reactions? This can go again, Yeah, I agree. Yeah. That's my favorite part too. The interactive part.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about Severance now?
Yeah, you guys ready to talk about Severance?
Let's do it. Let's end on Severance.
In this segment, Blake and I are going to be convincing Taylor to start watching season 2 of Severance, despite its weight.
I think I'm so stupid. Earlier when I saw that it was 1:20 something else, I thought we had been talking for 2 hours, but it was actually 1 hour and 20 minutes. So this whole time I have been so confused of like the time, but it's because we're doing this on a Saturday morning. Severance, I watched Thursdays, which is the lowest rated episode of all time.
Also the shortest.
People want answers now. They do not want meandering bullshit bottle episodes.
Are we selling you yet, Taylor?
Yeah, I can't wait to watch a show.
No, the episode 7 was so good that people.
The problem is that 7 was, 7 was like literally like a work of art, a thing that will be remembered and talked about for years to come. And then episode 8, which you had to know was coming, was like tangential, different topic, not your characters that you wanted to focus on, but still important. And so people are not happy. But you honestly had to know. If you didn't expect that, then you haven't been watching TV enough, I think.
Taylor, you should watch episode 7 3 years from now, probably.
No, I feel like I'm in a place in my life now where I can commit the time to watch that now, Like when the show came out, I just was like not ready to be kind of bummed out by the sadness in these people's lives, you know? So now I think I can be ready and figure it out. Although I did watch the first episode, and that whole opening scene where Adam McKay is like running down white hallways and it's a one continuous shot
Adam
is
Scott.
Adam Scott. Yeah, sorry. Uh, was amazing. That was a freaking super cool way to open the season, and like, yeah, super disorienting and slash reorienting ourselves with the show and stuff, and yeah, intense.
Yeah. So this season 2, they have like really turned up the production, or not like production, but like the creative decisions, I would say. Like the season starts with like this very unusual like camera sequence on Adam, right? Like, which is intentional that they started with that. But like they've really upped the visual effects and like the things that they're doing to make it feel disorienting and stuff are very like on display in this season. And I do still feel like they've kept it very tasteful and it's very effective. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. And I believe Blake has a theory about where this is going.
Yeah, do I want to
Is that
say
true,
this
Blake?
in front of the whole world? So
The
like,
whole world,
I have to drive past their buildings through like 5 times a day.
the
Sometimes
dozens of subscribers we have.
There's a part in last week's episode, that's episode 7 if you're paying attention, where the character holds 2 things and they give her a reading.
Hunter's
And that is clear. She's holding the hunter
2.
clave, and
She spent
like, this feels
$80.
expensive. And she's like, what did the reading say? And if you were around in 2014 when it was all the rage to watch documentaries about Scientology, that's one of those, they have meters that read your like, oh, what's your reading that day? And it's something that like, oh, I had a bad reading, so they're going to ask for more money, or I had a good reading, so they're going to ask for more money. And it's like, it's kind of, it feels like, if you're not paying attention, but I think there is some clear allegory to Scientology for Severance, which when you rethink about certain things you've seen and stuff they've said out loud of like, what do you know about the Church of Scientology? There's some like, oh, that puts that layer in a different context as well. But then like episode 8 is like a whole like, oh, maybe they needed this. I don't want to think about my job because they were doing horrific acts at their job for like 10 hours a day. And like, that's a good way to Severance. But like the whole layer of this, like, are Severance people real people, is like, that was the topic of this. And thank God we kind of got away from that. But then there's like a word I don't want to say in front of Taylor to ruin those episodes for him, of like, what are the rights of an innie in this circumstance, where I was like, I hope we don't talk about this the whole time. And then we didn't. So I was like, okay, great. And I'm excited for the finale next week of what's going to happen. I think it's
2.
Is it 9 or 10 episodes? I remember it being
10.
like, maybe it's not. Okay.
Sick. All right. Binge watch today on Saturday. Got it. Done.
Zayne's looking if it's 10, or he knows it's 10.
I Googled it. Well, I'll Google it again. Mentally prepare for episode 7.
I'm ready. I'm ready right now.
10 episodes.
So 2 weeks from Thursday.
I'm watching Severance. Everybody else is going to watch Joker, Full A Deuce, more Joker, and we'll all be on the same page of great television.
Yeah. And
yeah.
And while you're on Apple TV, if you buy or get a trial or whatever, Slow Horses, also good, which is what Colin called out a month ago. He was right. It is good.
Should watch Drops of God also. It's about wine tasting, and the stakes could not be higher, and it's super good. I don't want to tell you more, but it's really good. Watch that also. Okay, we've come Full A Deuce circled now, and it's time for our episode to end. with one final question. I asked Colin in our last episode when the two of you weren't on if that was a canonical episode or existed in kind of a seminal alternate reality multiverse. How do we feel when Colin is not here? Is this a canonical episode or is this also a multiverse scenario? What do you guys think?
I do think anytime we are recording and putting something to YouTube that is an episode, like I would even say there's more than 107 because the deck decks feel like episode, or I know we just said deck decks instead of episodes, but it's still, what does the word episode mean? Well, you know, like it's
what is an episode? You know?
No, I think that's the whole point of being a co-host is if I break my leg and I'm on painkillers for 8 months, I'd hope you guys wouldn't wait. You guys would go without me and be like still on painkillers. But no, that was the whole reason I couldn't do this last week is because my friend is moving to Wisconsin because he's no longer in love. And I was like, oh my God, I can't. I love Flesh and Blood, but I've been hanging out with this guy for like 6 or 7 years at this point.
Zayne, what's your take? Canonical, not canonical? Multiverse? We're in the Spider-Verse?
It's canonical.
Wow.
Count
I mean, if you got Jake to replace me and he made his room messy behind him and yelled the F word and said, I wish Reiner got better cards. And then
I think you would do some of that.
Instead of Zayne, you got a guy named Blaine and he did his
He's
hair
a fire gym leader.
Certain way. Yeah.
And
then I would be like, that's a multiverse if you replaced us with people that go, oh no. But you guys
I would die for this. Well, that's our episode. Thanks everybody for being here with us again this month. Is this our first episode of March? I think it is.
It is.
Happy March. Spring is sprunging.
Springing.
It's springing currently.
Sprung.
So spring has sprung.
T-Pain.
Shout out to the dogs on this episode too. We got a lot of dog action in the background. We love
hard.
that. It's on brand for us. So yeah, anyway, I just freaking love you guys and love our audience and love doing this podcast. And we'll see you in the next episode when we're almost London time, baby.
Yeah, pre-London prep next episode.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.